Good morning / afternoon, everyone. So want to give you guys a little bit more work on the two-step equations before we move on to something more difficult. So what we're going to do today is, so this is for the sub. If you have not did a two-step equation worksheet yesterday, and then there's another one today. So if they did not complete the one from yesterday, feel free to go back to the video. It's Integrated Math 1027 and work through that. You can just fast forward to find whichever problem they're on. Kind of the same thing for today. So I'm not really going to walk them through any of the problems. But if they are having problems, you can fast forward it. Or if you want, you can just say, hey, listen, we're just going to work through this as a class and say, everyone take 2-3 minutes on number one, hit pause on the video, and then you can work through the entire worksheet that way as well, because this video will go through the entire worksheet. So, number one, so if you're just letting it play through, which is absolutely 100% okay, dependent on kind of where everybody is, give everyone a couple minutes to try number one, and then go ahead and hit play. Okay, so we're back. Number one. So keeping in mind that what we're trying to do here is isolate our variable, and we want to move from the outside in. Want to get rid of those numbers furthest away from the variable first. So we have that +2 we need to get rid of. So we're going to use the inverse operation of subtraction. Always remember, if we do it to one side, got to do it to the other side. So moving left to right, 6 minus 2 is 4. That a over 4, nothing there happens. And the 2 minus 2 becomes a 0. So now we just have 4 equals a divided by 4. And I just realized that some of these are duplicates from what we did yesterday, and that's okay. We'll just work through. So if they are the same problem as we did yesterday, don't worry about it. This is a divided by 4, so we multiply by 4, and we get 16 equals a. Number 2, again, feel free to go ahead and hit pause. Let them work on this and then hit play. So what we want to do is we want to start off by getting rid of that 6, because remember, we work opposite. So you're going to add 6 to both sides. 6 minus 6 is 0. That x over 4 just stays as is. And -5 plus 6 is the same thing. So remember that -5 plus 6 is the same thing as 6 minus 5. And that equals 1. So then to get rid of that x divided by 4, because remember that x over 4 is the same thing as x divided by 4. So we get rid of that using multiplication. And we get x equals 4. Number 3. Again, we want to isolate our x. We want to move in from the outside. So we're going to, so notice that my arrow is from the outside, but really what that means is that this 7 is further away from the x. So that's the one we need to get rid of first. So I guess technically I should do the arrow that way. We're going to add 7 to both sides. And that's going to give me 9x. -7 plus 7 is 0. and that's 0 as well. So now we have 9x equals 0. Again, I always get a little bit concerned when I get zeros, but as long as I can go back and kind of double check my math and make sure that I did the right thing. 0 is an acceptable answer, but it is, it always, I think a lot of people, myself included, get a little bit nervous when we get it because you think you did something wrong because it's 0. I don't know why that is. It's just not what we normally see, excuse me. So 9 times x, remember, if a number and a letter are right next to each other, that means multiplication. So we divide by 9. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. So that gets rid of the 9. So that just leaves an x. And then 0 divided by 9, well, anything divided by 0, or 0 divided by anything, rather, is 0. So number 4. So here we have a 0. So, just kind of all by itself, which is fine. So we want to move from the outside in because we're trying to isolate that n. So we have 4 plus n over 5. We're going to subtract that 4 because it's a plus 4. So that's how we get rid of addition, is we subtract. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. And then we have n over 5. We want to multiply both sides by 5. Those 5s cancel out because that turns into 5 over 5, which is 1. And then we get negative 20 equals n. Again, I don't expect you guys to have, all this multiplication down pat. Feel free to use the calculator if you need to. So number 5, looking to isolate that r. So I'm going to get rid of the numbers furthest away first. We're going to add 5 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 5, that's the same thing as 5 minus 4. So we go 1 equals r divided by 20. R divided by 20, we want to multiply both sides by 20 because that's how we get rid of it. We get rid of division with multiplication. And so 20 equals r. So number 6, remember from yesterday, we talked about this. If the variable is up on top with another, so look at the difference between 5 and 6. 5, the variable has that division, but it's by itself, so we get rid of the 5. Over here, where it's up top with the number, we actually need to get rid of the division first. So it's 5 plus x divided by 6, so we multiply by 6. And that gives us negative 6 equals 5 plus x. So we have 5 plus x. How do we get rid of that 5? It's a positive 5. So we subtract. Moving left to right, negative 6 minus 5. We plug that into a calculator. We get negative 11. 5 minus 5 is 0. So we get x, and that's our answer. I haven't been circling or squaring my answers, which I need to do. That's good practice. So number 7 is like number 6. So I want to go ahead and we want to get rid of that 3 first. 3, so it's v plus 9 divided by 3. So when we multiply that whole side by 3, the 3 divided by 3 cancels out. And we end up with v plus 9. 8 times 3 is 24. So now we have v plus 9 equals 24. Still looking to isolate that v. So we want to go ahead and we want to subtract 9 from both sides. Because again, it's v plus 9, so we want to use subtraction, the inverse operation. And so we end up with v, 24 minus 9 is 15. Number 8. So this is 2, and remember, if those parentheses are multiplication. So we have 2 times n plus 5 equals negative 2. So what we want to do is we want to divide both sides by 2. Because those parentheses kind of work as a wall that we need to get rid of before we can isolate our variable further. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that cancels out. We get n plus 5 equals negative 1. So now we have n plus 5 equals negative 1. How do we get rid of a plus 5? Why, we subtract it. And that gives us n. 5 minus 5 is 0. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. Moving on. Again, if we're just working through this straight through, a lot of the students, a minute and a half to 3 minutes on each problem. Pause this, let them work through it, try on their own, and then hit play so everyone can check to make sure that they did it right. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides. This is going to give us negative 9x equals negative 81. And again, I know for a fact that this is one that we did yesterday, and that's okay. When you're using a problem generator, sometimes that will happen. So negative 9 divided by negative 9 is 1, so that just leaves us with an x. Negative 81 divided by negative 9 is 9. So negative 6 equals number 10. Again, hit pause, let everyone kind of work through it, and go from there. So we're looking to isolate that n, so we want to work from the outside in. So we've got to get rid of that negative 10 first, so we're going to add 10 to both sides. And that's going to give us negative 6 plus 10 is 4, because negative 6 plus 10 is the same thing as 10 minus 6, equals n over 2. N over 2 is the same thing as n divided by 2, so we multiply by 2. And that gives us n equals 8. So, number 11, again, looking to isolate that v, so we want to work outside in. We're going to subtract both sides, negative 2. Negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. 2 minus 2 is 0, and that leaves us with v over 4. V over 4 is the same thing as v divided by 4. How do we get rid of division? We multiply. So we multiply both sides by 4. That cancels out over there and gives us negative 16 equals v. Number 12. Remember, negative 12 times x plus 5. So I want to divide by negative 12. That cancels out there. We do it to one side. Got to do it to the other. 144 divided by negative 12. We go boop, boop, boop in the calculator. And we get negative 12 equals x plus 5. How do we deal with that x plus 5? Well, we subtract it. And that gives us negative 17 equals x. Number 13, again, hit pause, let people work through, hit play. Looking to isolate for that m. So we subtract 5 from both sides. Negative 15 minus 5, because we already have a negative 15 and we're subtracting 5 more, it's actually going to get smaller, so we get negative 20. So now we have negative 20 equals negative 4m. We divide both sides by negative 4, because negative 4 m is the same thing as negative 4 times m. How do we get rid of multiplication? We divide. So this leaves us with the 4's are gone, so that gives us the m all by itself. And negative 20 divided by negative 4, when we're dividing a negative by a negative, we get a positive. So that's 5 equals m. Number 14, we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. That gives us negative 6v equals negative 114. Again, use your calculator. Negative 6v, we want to divide by negative 6. and that's going to give us v. And we go negative 114 divided by negative 6. Pop that into our calculator, and we get 19. Number 15. We start off with subtraction. We want to isolate that variable, working from far away to close by. And that gives us 8n equals 24. Divide both sides by 8. We get n equals 3. 16, just like we got rid of the 8 with on number 15, we got rid of with a negative 7. Here we have negative 13. So we're actually going to add 13 because we want to use inverse operations. That cancels out, so we have negative 9x. Negative 103 plus 13 is going to give us a negative 90. Use your calculator if you're unsure. Divide both sides by negative 9. We end up with x equals 10. Number 17, remember, this is one of the tricky ones. Because the n and the 5 are both in the numerator, the top of the fraction, we have to multiply first. And that gives us n plus 5 equals 16. I want to subtract both sides by 5, and we get n equals 11. Number 18. Working far away to close by. 0 equals 0 plus 7m. I don't know why I put the plus there. It's really not necessary. We're going to divide both sides by 7. 0 divided by 7 is 0. So again, when you get a 0 as an answer, that's a little tricky. So what I like to do is I like to go back, check my work, plug that 0 in, make sure it is true. 0 times 7 is 0. So that gives us negative 10 equals negative 10. Yep, that is 100% true, so we're good to go. Right, pig, out. Sorry, I had to yell at my pig there for a second. So that gives us negative 1 equals k minus 9. We're going to add 9 to both sides. We get 8 equals k. Number 20. Standard, we're used to these. We know these. We can do these. We're going to add 1 to both sides. Remember, we're working far away from the variable to close by. Those cancel out. So we have m divided by 9 equals negative 1. M divided by 9, we get rid of that with multiplication. We have m equals negative 9. Number 21. Subtract 9 from both sides. That gives us 9n equals 0. Divide both sides by 9. And we get n equals 0. Again, if we're not sure whether or not 0 is the right answer, we can always go back and plug it in. There are just a whole lot of 9s there. That gives us 9 plus 0 equals 9. Or 9 equals 9. And that is true. So if we get a true answer on when we go back and check our answers, we know we're doing it right. So 7 times 9 plus k. Remember, when we have that number on the outside, we've got to get rid of that, and it's by multiplication. So we divide both sides by 7, and we get 9 plus k equals 12. We subtract 9 from both sides, and we get k equals 3. Last two, so exciting. All the excite, people. We're going to start off with negative 8 on both sides. That gives us b over negative 4 equals negative 3. So we have 5 minus 8. And that gives us a negative 3. Now, b divided by negative 4. When you multiply here, make sure you're multiplying by that negative 4. Because if not, you'll end up with a negative b. So we want to get rid of the entire denominator. That's the number on the bottom half of a fraction. That's what's being divided into, or that's what's doing the dividing. So we have b divided by negative 4, which means we need to multiply by negative 4. So we have b equals negative 3 times negative 4 is 12. Negative 243 equals negative 9 over times 10 plus x. So again, this is negative 9 times 10 plus x. And we know that we need to get rid of the negative 9. We know we need to get rid of the 10, but we can't get rid of the 10 until we kind of break it out from those parentheses. So those cancel out right there. Grab our calculator and we go negative 243 divided by negative 9 is going to give us a positive 27 equals 10 plus x. So now we simply subtract 10 from both sides and we get 17 equals x. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate all the work. I know this is not what we all expected to be doing, and I will, be back in front of you guys. Kilt and bow tie as soon as I can. Miss you guys. Thank you. Take care.